Hello, and welcome to the 2021 Autism Learning Partners Employee Open Enrollment. My name is Jonathan Rudnick, and for the next little while, I am going to go over and give you kind of a quick overview of your employee benefits and what's happening for 2021. This is going to be for Southern California. So if for some reason you are actually in a different area of the company, you may need to tune in to a different video. All right, let's get into this because there is not a moment to spare. And once you check this out, I know you're going to go right into the benefits portal and probably enroll in your benefits. So let's do the best to make sure that I can answer, every question that you have. Now, this may look familiar, what you're looking at right now. Most of you should have received this benefits guide already. I'm going to use it as my template just to kind of go over everything that's important this year and point out some things and give you a refresher. That way, you'll know exactly what's going to happen. So let's get this going. A couple things on the agenda. Let's talk about the HSA for a minute. The HSA is not the FSA, so please don't get that confused. The HSA savings account limits for 2021, right? You saw this in your benefits guide, is $3,600 for an individual or $7,200 for an employee independent or family. All right, so that's a highlight for this year. Make sure that just lets you know the maximum you can contribute to the plan for the year of 2021. Another thing on the agenda is that with the United Healthcare PPO dental plan, there is a rollover benefit. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Most of you are aware that we do all of our enrollments online through our portal. That is a specific portal for you. You were all emailed a link, and you've probably seen this link before, and all of your data information is held within that portal. And so you don't have to start over from scratch again, but you do have to make some of your elections for this year and let us know what you're doing. If we don't know what you're doing, that always ends up with a little bit of an issue and a payroll deduction that you probably weren't expecting. So this is really your opportunity to go in and let us know exactly what's going on. It is also your time to upgrade or downgrade your benefits. This is the only one time a year that you're going to be able to do this. After the open enrollment is over, unfortunately, the insurance company will not allow us to make changes to your benefit plan. So depending on what is going on for you coming up in 2021, maybe there's some surgeries, maybe you're pregnant, different things are probably going to happen in the new year. This is a good chance to take advantage and get a better plan if you need a better plan, or go to the lower plan if you had the better plan last year. All of this is being done. You do not have to worry about pre-existing conditions. So none of that is anything that you have to worry about at this moment. I'm going to throw up our telephone number, throughout, the meeting, just in case you need to get a hold of us, but it is also listed here in the benefits guide. It is 818-883-3282. The extension for Chuck Best is extension 105 and then hit pound. And the extension for myself, Jonathan Rudnick, is extension 1760 and pound. So keep those numbers handy. There are other brokers in the office just to help out. But if you need to speak to one of us specifically, this is the way to get to us. We also have email addresses. This is the one listed for Chuck Best right here. Mine is very similar, except the first part of it is J Rudnick, so J like Jonathan, RUD, N as in Nancy, ICK at lafinservices.com. All right, so let's get into some of this good stuff. All right, I did say that because this is open enrollment, this is your only opportunity to go ahead and make changes to the benefit plans. But it isn't the only opportunity if something were to happen throughout the year, if you needed to add on a dependent or take off a dependent. And that's usually due to a qualifying life event. Most of these, and the ones you've probably heard of, are, if you get married, if you have a child, right, or if your dependent loses coverage from somewhere else. These are all different scenarios where somebody might need to come on, throughout the year. Now, if you could, please get a hold of us as soon as possible when something like this does happen, because it does take time to process at the health insurance carrier and right? There's a limited time which to be able to do this. So if you could get back to us with at least, within 31 days, that will help make sure that you or your loved one will be in the system for the benefit that they need to come on for. All right. I want to make a quick reminder here. Once again, I am talking about the HSA plan. Remember that the HSA medical plan and the HSA account go together, right? You cannot have an HSA account where you are contributed money to, right, without the HSA medical plan. Once again, this is different from the FSA, all right? Now, your employer, right, as a reminder, will reimburse you for the first $200 that you deposit into your individual HSA, or up to $400 if you enroll with a dependent. So just remember that that is going on. It is something that unfortunately gets forgotten, but I want to make sure that you know what's happening for this year. All right, so let's talk about some plans here. Now you have quite a few options, 5 plan options in total. I'm going to go over the 2 PPO plans. First things first, the question I always get asked is, do these utilize the same PPO network? Are they the same providers? And absolutely, they are the same providers. When we get down to the provider finder, I will show you how that works out and why you will be pulling from the same providers, and it will be absolutely the same doctors. However, the plans are entirely different. HSAs, just to give you a quick note, in addition to having a higher deductible than most plans, right? Although your deductible is actually relatively reasonable. They don't have first dollar benefits. And what that means is that normally, in order to meet the IRS guidelines, you have to go ahead and satisfy the deductible before you get to take advantage of coinsurance or copays for prescriptions. So keep that in perspective while you're trying to evaluate your plans, because that may not be your intention for this year. You may want to do something different. So let's go into these plans here really quick. So the deductible under the traditional PPO is $1,000, and it is $2,000 for an individual under the HSA. As we're moving down the list here, the out-of-pocket for an individual is $5,000 under the traditional PPO, and it is $4,000 under the HSA. Okay, so these are things that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to plan out what it is that you want to do for this next year. The out-of-pocket, just to give you once more a refresher, a reminder, I'm going to use that a lot of times as I go through this. That is really your stop loss. So keep that in mind when you're trying to think about, well, am I going to be out millions of dollars this year if something goes dramatically wrong? And the answer is no. You will not be out of millions of dollars, because if you're going in network, you're capped at $5,000 under the traditional PPO, and you're capped at $4,000 under the HSA. So that is a great thing. The other thing to keep in mind is that a PPO doesn't require you to pick a primary care physician. The PPO does have in and out of network doctors. So just remember, and I'll go over this over and over again, is that when you go out of network, you can see that the deductibles are higher, right? And you can also see that there is no contract with that particular provider. So that means that there's going to be more out of pocket to you generally, just because the insurance company does not have a contract with that particular doctor. If you can go in network, that is a great thing. That will always save you the most amount of money. So here, let's look at a couple other things that are going on with the plan. Office visits under the PPO plan, the traditional PPO, are a straight $35. So regardless of how many times you go to the doctor, it will always be $35. However, remember that under the HSA, it is 20% after the deductible. So you are not even getting a $35 copay. However, that doesn't mean that the doctor can charge you $18 million to come see them. There is a negotiated rate for services, but that is what will get billed to you, upon you going into the doctor's office. So it could be 75, could be 100, could be a little bit more if it's a specialist. When we go down to diagnostic lab and x-rays, under the PPO, it is $0, and it does not apply to the deductible. So you'll be able to get those lab or x-rays at zero cost for you. But once again, under the HSA, it is 20% after the deductible. I've done quite a few of these meetings. One thing that always seems to come up is what about annual physicals and preventive care? Now, that is the one thing that under both the traditional PPO and the HSA that are covered at 100%. Everybody thinks about what the preventative care actually is, but there actually are specific things that are covered. So typically, if you are younger, it's going to be an annual physical. And so they do certain, blood work and different things while you are there for that particular office visit. However, when you get older, when you get to be 40, if you're a woman, they are starting to do mammograms. And if you're a man, they're going to start to do a PSA test. When you get to be 50, that's going to be the colonoscopies for either man or woman. So these are good things to keep in perspective. If you are getting things that are diagnostic on a regular basis, because maybe you have something going on with you, that's not going to be preventative care. Preventative care really is at those particular thresholds that I was indicating and does not turn into diagnostic unless they are trying to figure out what's going on with you. All right, so if you go in for a colonoscopy and they don't find anything and send you home, you are not going to pay for that on either plan. All right, so let's look at prescriptions, another hot ticket item when you're trying to evaluate your plan. There is no pharmacy deductible under the traditional PPO. However, remember on the HSA plan, your medical deductible is actually your prescription deductible. So that's very important depending on how you look at your care for this year. Under the traditional PPO, it is 15, 35, or 50, depending on what tier your prescription falls into. And once you get past the medical deductible, it is 15, 40, and 60 under the HSA plan. Let's step back here for 1 minute. If we're talking about inpatient hospital or outpatient surgery, right, it is a $100 copay under the traditional PPO plus 20%, or just a flat 20% after the deductible, right, under the HSA plan. But in both of these scenarios, it is subject to the deductible. Now, outpatient surgery, where most of these things happen, like for knee surgery, shoulder surgery, it is 20% after the deductible under the traditional PPO and the same under the HSA. Okay. So let's look at some of the other things that typically come up when we are going over some of this coverage, and it is the emergency room and urgent care. Emergency room is a $100 copay plus 20% under the traditional PPO, and it is 20% after the deductible under the HSA. Urgent care is a $35 copay no matter how many times you go under the traditional PPO, and 20% after the deductible under the HSA. Now, most of the time, going to the urgent care seems to work out to be a much better value and typically quicker than going anywhere else. If you are not in a scenario where you absolutely have to go to the emergency room, I would find where the nearest urgent care is in network and try to utilize that for a lot of your care, just because I do believe it's going to save you money and time throughout the year. All right. Usually that's the point in which I would ask for some additional questions and take a quick breath. But let's move on to the HMO options. You have 3 HMO options. 2 of them are actually designed very similar in terms of benefits, but they are actually different in terms of the network of providers. So when you are trying to evaluate your plan for this year, do not just only look at the deductible, but also look at the network so that you can make sure that you can keep your provider, right, or move to a different provider depending on where you want to go. If you said to me, hey, Jonathan, I'm looking to go to Cedars-Sinai or UCLA, right, you're going to want to be under the signature value plan and not under Harmony, because that's just where that particular provider is. Since you have 3 choices of HMOs, right, it really just depends where you want to be this year. A $1,500 deductible in the HMO world is actually relatively low at this point in time, because a lot of people have moved to deductibles that are much higher. It is also important to figure out, which the deductible applies to. HMOs are really good about copays and making sure that the costs are very minimal, depending on what it is that you're going to do for the year. So let's take a look at that really quick. The deductible for the first 2 plans is the same. They are identical, $1,500, because that's the way that they're built. But under the $0 deductible plan, it is $0, obviously. Okay. As we start to move down the list, right, the out-of-pocket under the first 2 plans is $5,000 because they're the same, but it is lowered down to $3,000 on the upgraded $0 deductible plan. Okay. Oops, sorry, I got ahead of myself. I apologize for that. Let me skip back. All right. So as you continue to, look at some of your options, I would be trying to figure out what it is that you really want to do for this year. Because if you do have some surgeries or different things like that, each plan is going to work a little bit differently for you. And I truly believe that's where you get your value in any one year. Um, you may have had a lesser plan last year and you want to move up to the higher plan because you're having a baby. This is the time to make that decision. Maybe you couldn't go to the doctor for your elective surgery and now you want to do that for 2021. Absolutely make your decision for this year and do this. So under the first two plans, it is $25 copay to go to the primary care doctor, and it is a $40 copay to see the specialist. Okay, under the HMO, and before I talk about the $0 deductible plan copays for one more minute, it is important that you know that you are picking a primary care physician under the HMO, and that is different than where you are at under the PPO. You do not have this primary care doctor for the rest of your life. You definitely can call up the insurance carrier and make a change, but please try and make sure you get in to call them, before the 15th of the month so that they can switch you over to the new medical group. All right, that is very different from the PPO where you're just going to go wherever you want to go at the time that you want to access service. Now, getting back to the copays, the $0 deductible plan is $30 to go to the primary care doctor and $40 to see the specialist. So as we're going along the list here, be aware of the different costs for X-ray and labs. It is a $25 copay for labs under the first two plans and a $0 copay for X-rays. Now these things are important, especially if you're going to get certain services done. How much is this going to cost me? Under the last plan, the $0 deductible plan, it is a $0 copay for labs and for X-ray. Once again, cost savings. When you're going in for a surgery, it's important to know they might have you do an MRI first just to see what's going on. That is a straight $100 copay across the board. So very important to know what that's going to cost you. MRIs can be thousands of dollars, so it's good to know what the copay is. Now, under all three of these plans, and this is good to note, there is no pharmacy deductible. All right, that means that all of your prescriptions are available for a copay from day one. And the cost for prescriptions are the same across the three different plans, and they're all dependent on the tier that the prescription falls into. So tier 1, 2, or 3. So if you're trying to figure out how much something's going to cost, it is important to figure out which tier it is in. Okay, so here may be one of the most important things that you're looking at when you're going over some of this. All right, it is important to note, right, that while we're going over everything, that the emergency room, the hospital, these things are slightly different across the plans. And this might help you evaluate, where you're going to be. Inpatient hospital across the first two plans are 30%, but after the deductible. However, it is only $500 copay per day on the $0 deductible plan. Now, a lot of people get confused on this 3-day maximum. That's not when they're going to kick you out of the hospital. Just keep in mind that you only pay for the first 3 days, and then after that, the insurance company is going to pay for the rest. So if you end up in the hospital and you have a C-section for your pregnancy, you may be in the hospital legitimately for 3 to 4 days, just depending on how things are going. But when you get to that 4th day, the insurance company is picking up the tab for that 4th day. So that's really good cost containment depending on what's going on. It also lets you know on the upgraded plan that you are not going to go broke or have to pay endlessly, right? If you're in the hospital for 30 days. Don't forget, you also have an out-of-pocket maximum on all of these plans, so don't worry, no matter what your worst case scenario is, it's never going to be $10 million. It's always going to go back to the out-of-pocket maximum. Outpatient surgery, which is where most surgeries will happen when we are talking about knee surgeries, ankle surgeries, shoulder surgeries. Most of that stuff is going to happen there. It's 30% copay after the deductible on the first two plans, and just 20% because, of course, there is no deductible on the last plan with the $0 deductible. So the emergency room on the first two plans is $150 copay, which is great. Once again, cost containment. Emergency room visits are expensive, and a $200 copay right under the $0 deductible plan. All right, urgent care. Once again, this is something that under the HMO, make sure you know where your urgent care is ahead of time, because trying to find it at the last minute is very frustrating. But it's also good to know that, once again, going to the urgent care is going to save you money. It is only a $25 copay on the first plans, right? And a $30 copay under the $0 deductible plan. So super important. Once again, they usually have extended hours. So if you miss your doctor, this is the place to go and try and get an appointment. Usually emergency room is the last resort, or it is because you're going in an ambulance, they are automatically taking you to the emergency room. So how would you find a provider? And this is a very important step. I do believe that UHC does have a great way to find doctors. It is easier than some of the other carriers, even though they do have a lot of plans. So you're going to go to myuhc.com and find a doctor. You don't have to put in your ID number. You can definitely go in as a guest and you can shop around. You can definitely do that. And you don't have to do anything else to really find out if there's doctors in your network. However, you do have to put in the right plan information. If you just want the signature value HMO, please check that. But if you're looking for the signature value harmony, those are two different sets of doctors. So make sure you put in the correct one, or guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up with a provider that you did not ask for. Okay. Now, what if we're talking about the PPO? Whether we're talking about the PPO or the HSA, they both use the same network. I told you that before. You're going to go in under Select Plus. Super important, so you figure out where you're going to go. That will be less frustrating. If you have any problems with looking in the directory, feel free to give us a call. Usually it'll take me a minute or two and we can go over it, and you'll say, oh, I didn't know it was that easy. Hopefully, that is what I'm hoping for. All right, also in this provider search area, there's the way to look for dental PPO providers, dental HMO providers, or vision providers. So just refer back to this either in the portal or your benefits guide. That is going to be the way to find those providers. That is a good segue into some of the ancillary benefits. So remember, that just because you don't put your family members on the medical doesn't mean that they can't come on the dental, vision, and any of the other plans that allow dependents to come on. So keep that in perspective. That way you can put them onto the plans that make sense for them this year. And, they can have the coverage that you want them to have. It has been a strange year. I feel like more people are going to use their benefits in 2021. So this may be time to make a change. You have two options here. It looks like three, but it's actually two options for dental. You have the HMO dental through United Healthcare, and you have the PPO dental through United Healthcare as well. Now, the HMO and the PPO work differently. The HMO uses a copay schedule. That copay schedule is listed in our portal. Remember that all the 88 codes are there, are exactly how the dentist is going to bill you when you get services. Now, if you are going to get a lot of services done, do not have them done immediately. I know you are tempted to just get it all done in one shot, but I do beg you to at least get a treatment plan, have them spell out all the 88 codes so that you know, right, by looking at those 88 codes, that, right, what this is going to cost. And maybe there's something that doesn't show up with a code and you say, oh, is that not covered? Sometimes the dentist will change the type of metal they're using or do a different procedure, but at least you can talk with them about that before you get the work done. That way, instead of your bill being $5,000, maybe it's only $1,000 or $500. The HMO system is kind of like the HMO medical. You are going to pick a primary care dentist and stick with that dentist, for your care. If you do not like that dentist, call up United Healthcare. They can definitely help you get that dentist switched. You do want to try and get in there before the 15th of the month. Now, the HMO, once again, it is copay driven. There is no deductible. It does have unlimited benefits, meaning that you can get as many crowns as you need. They will not stop you. You will get preventative care, right? Preventative care is going to cover 2 cleanings a year, usually 6 months spread out. And they're usually going to do an oral exam and some basic x-rays. That's all part of the preventative care. You do not pay for that. You've paid your premium, right? After that, that's what they're going to give you. Now let's contrast this, right, to the PPO. Now with the PPO, which is a much larger network of dentists than the HMO level of dentists that are out there with United Healthcare and pretty much any other dental carrier that's out there, right? But the plan works entirely differently. They do not use copays under the PPO. They're going to use percentages, right? And there are a couple other things you have to be mindful of. Under the PPO, there is an annual max. Right, once you hit that annual max, you're going to have to wait until the following year to get any more benefits. So here we are at the end of the year. Make sure that if you can get in to see the dentist, maybe you get some of your work done now, and the rest of it will get finished in 2021. You still have preventative care under the PPO, and it still pays 100%. So if you want to get your 2 cleanings a year, right, the oral exam and some of those basic x-rays, that's going to be covered at 100% in network. Okay. The reason why I say in network is because it works a little bit differently when you go out of network. Keep in mind that because it is a PPO and you have in network and out of network privileges, you're always getting the best value when you go in network, right? Because there's a contract with that dentist. When you go out of network, don't be surprised if you receive some extra bills because that dentist might just charge more than what UHC has in his contract. So just be mindful of that. If you absolutely want to see your family dentist and they are not in network, just know that you're going to pay a little bit more. Now, the PPO also has a one time a year $50 deductible. All right. Once you meet that in 2021, it is satisfied for the whole year. So don't worry about having to satisfy it every single time you need to get a service. It also only applies, right, to basic and major services. So that does not apply, right, to preventative care. So if we go down the list here, basic services are considered fillings, root canals, and periodontic work. You pay 20% for this, and the insurance company is going to pay 80% of the bill. Now, the 80% of that money is coming out of your annual max. So that's your bucket of money. That's where they're pulling it from. Excuse me. If you have to get major services, which are usually crowns and bridges and dentures, that's going to be paid at 50%. So you're going to pay 50% and they're going to pay 50%. So just keep that in perspective. When you go to get work done, this is a way of planning things out. Ortho coverage is only available under the HMO. Your plan under the HMO has one of the lowest copays I've ever seen in my lifetime in this business. $1,000 copay for child ortho is a super great deal. Under adult ortho, right, it is $1,895 for the copay. So it is available to everybody in your family, but only under the HMO. The PPO does not have that level of coverage. Now, one thing that the PPO does have this year that you should be mindful of is it does have a rollover benefit. If you're one of those people that just like unused cell phone minutes, you're like, hey, do those just go into a black hole somewhere? Where does that stuff go? Well, if you are an underutilizer, right, and you use less than $1,000 of your bucket of money, they are going to roll over $600 towards your next year's benefit. And that can be really helpful, right? Because if that's a year where you have a lot of fillings or crowns or need a denture, that extra money will be available to you. So that's really cool. All right. So another benefit that's being provided to you under United Healthcare is vision, right? Vision, once again, under United Healthcare is a PPO. It has in-network and out-of-network benefits. The examination that you get and the eyeglass lenses that you get have frequencies to them. You can get these once every 12 months. And you can get frames once every 24 months or once every 2 years. Normally, the optometrist is really good about mailing you a postcard and letting you know when that stuff is up so that you can utilize your benefit. But you can either go to United Healthcare, contracted optometrists, or you can go out of network. But once again, you always get the best benefit when you go in network. So let's see how this plan works. Just as a refresher, the exam is going to cost you $10 and they are going to pay for the rest of the exam when you go in network. So if the exam is $75, you're going to pay the first 10 and they're going to pay the rest, the $65. Now materials, in materials is the lenses. So they will give you single vision, bifocal or trifocal lenses. You'll pay the first 25, they will pay the rest. Some of the stuff like transitions, scratch resistance, those are always extra, right? So always check with them to see what your bill is going to be when you're going to get that stuff. Frames, remember, just because you've paid the $25 for materials, they are also going to give you a $130 benefit towards frames. So you could get the lenses replaced every year, but you may have your frames for up to 2 years. Now, normally people say, is this a worthwhile benefit for me? Usually I say that it's based on the premium. Your premium is awesome. So to me, this plan, everybody should have the vision benefit. This is one of those things where I think it works out because of how low the premium actually is. Had the premium been $20 or something like that, I could see that you wouldn't want to do it. But I really like this plan. It is a great opportunity that your employer is giving you here. So, regardless of whether you need vision all the time or you just need to go get an exam once a year, we've been on the computer so much that I think this is just an important benefit just for this year alone and going into 2021 since we're working remotely. This is just a restatement of what's going on with the HESA, so I'm going to move past that. But I am going to talk about the FSA. So we already talked about the HSA. That is something that has to do with your medical benefits. The FSA is a flexible spending account, all right? And this has a real specific purpose. First of all, right, there is a design to this. It is the dependent care FSA allows you to be reimbursed for day or custodial care expenses for children that you have as your federal tax dependents under the age of 13, and also for disabled adult federal tax dependents that live with you so that you or your spouse can work or attend school. Now, how much can you put into this FSA? It is $5,000. That is the maximum. Now, this works differently. The HSA does not ever go away, but the FSA is true, like you've heard in the past, a use it or lose it benefit. So be mindful of the amount of money you plan to put in here, right? Because if you do not use it, right, they are going to only give you an extra period of up to March 15th, 2022, right, to get this out of your account. Otherwise, you are going to lose it. All right. So be very careful about the amount that you choose because you are going to be dedicated to that amount for the year. Okay. So what's some other benefits that you have? So I'm going to go over a few extra things: basic life, voluntary life, a couple other benefits that are there and you can have at your disposal. So basic life, for example, is an employer paid benefit. And I can't state this enough. Obviously, in this time period, things have been rather different for all of us. Basic life is something that you should just know that you have, but also in case you need to update your beneficiary. The basic life is one-time salary. You may have gotten married. Something may have happened. Maybe one of your kids that was younger turned 18 and you want to make them the beneficiary. Please make sure that you pay attention to this because if something does happen to you, it may go to the wrong person. And believe you me, if that is set in stone and you have elected a certain beneficiary, we will not be able to change that. And then it is just going to go to the wrong person. However, if the basic life is not enough life insurance for you, a lot of people are reevaluating their life insurance. You do have the opportunity to get voluntary life insurance for yourself. I can't stress enough that so many people come to us and say, oh, my friend does life insurance. I have a brother that does life insurance. And then you know what? They never do the life insurance. And then something happens and there just isn't enough money available for them and their family members that are left over, So the quickest way to get this is through your group plan. If you do end up getting life insurance through this brother or this other person, or even through us later on, right? Go ahead and reduce this amount of voluntary life insurance in one of the following years at open enrollment. No problem. But this is the easiest way to make sure that the premium gets paid because it's going to come out of your paycheck and to make sure that you actually have the life insurance. All right. I just want to make sure that you're protected. I can tell you right now that a basic funeral with not even a whole lot of stuff going on and not even a big reception is probably at a minimum $15,000. So how do I know that? Because unfortunately, I had to attend quite a few funerals this year that I did not intend to do. But that is how crazy this year has been. So a couple other benefits on the horizon, short-term disability and long-term disability, which I will go over in a second. Many of you may not be thinking in terms of disability. I do. Obviously, I'm an insurance person. I say that there are certain coverages that are core. I believe this is a core insurance that everybody should have because you really can't get it anywhere else. Now, you might be thinking about state disability and think that that's enough, but the way that the short-term disability is designed is really to get you, right, to 70% of your weekly covered earnings. Now, that, right, is not where you are at, right, today. Okay. This is a way to get up to where you might need to be depending on where you are with your income. Now, if we skip down, right, to long-term disability, this is one of the benefits that I'm really thinking that you have to go for. And my only way of getting this out to you is long-term disability is exactly what it says. It is one of those things that is out there really to cover you in the long term. Most of the time, right, people are thinking about what's going to happen in the short term because they think they're going to get back to work right away. However, there could be a scenario where you are out for a period of years. Long-term disability, it has an elimination period of 90 days, so it kicks in on the 91st day. Okay, and it is there to pay 60% of your monthly earnings up to a maximum, right? Now, what I want you to keep in mind is if something were to go on and you could never come back to work ever again, what is going to pay for your mortgage and some of these other things that you need money for, right? Or if you had to be in a nursing facility, this is what's going to be there for you. So if they said to you, you can never work ever again, this is going to pay a benefit until Social Security normal retirement age. Now, a lot of people think that the federal government is going to step in depending on what your disability is, but that doesn't always happen. Applying for the federal benefits can sometimes be difficult. So this is an actual insurance plan. Some people might think that they can go ahead and get this on their own, but it is very difficult and expensive to get this benefit on your own. So check out the rates for this. You may be pleasantly surprised at what it costs to get this benefit. And like I said, it is a ginormous benefit to have. The last three benefits that I'm going to go over, though, are some ones that I think, once again, are important because of where we are in the world today. It is hospital indemnity, accident, and critical illness. They are all different. You get to pick and choose which ones you want. So keep an eye on what you might think is important, and you can add these plans as you see fit. Hospital indemnity is just like what it says. There are three options. It is $1,000, $1,500, or $2,000. It's just going to pay you a benefit while you end up in the hospital, depending on which one you choose. So once again, this is money that gets paid directly to you. And this is great because it's not going to the insurance company. So once you file your claim, this money is going to get sent to you and you can use it for whatever you need. And it should really help you get through while you're not able to work, because if you were in the hospital, you're probably not going back to work for a few days, maybe a month. It just really depends on what your unique scenario is. So put that in perspective. Accident insurance, just like what it says. If you have an accident, this plan is going to pay you. The rest of the copays are actually listed in the portal. So if you really want to check out all the different copays and what goes on here, please check that out. But just to give you an idea, if you are washing dishes at home, you cut your hand, you have to go to the emergency room, they're going to pay you between $100 and $200, right? Because you ended up in the emergency room. So you send that into them and they're going to send you a check. It's not going to go to the insurance company. That money's coming to you. Now, to make this even better, it has a wellness benefit. So there are things you are already going to do. So if you go check the schedule online, they're going to pay you up to $200 a year, depending on who is enrolled in the plan, right? Just for doing stuff that you are already going to do. So go get your wellness checks, right? And then you're going to get money paid you. And that's going to make it all work out for this accident plan, even if you do not have an accident this year. So the last plan, right, critical illness, right, once again, this is one of these things that's come up this year and people have been having some strange things happen to them. With this benefit, you choose $5,000, $10,000, or $20,000 of benefit. And if something happens to you, just for example, like a heart attack, invasive cancer, renal failure, they're going to pay you 100% of that benefit. So if you have a heart attack, right, and once again, depending on the severity of that, you may not be back at work right away, right? Having a $10,000 benefit to help you pay your mortgage, once again, that could be a ginormous help to you when you're going through something, and set your mind at ease. So that's why these plans are available. Pick and choose the ones that you want. See what fits into the amount that you can spare in your paycheck. We do have a shopping cart program in with the portal, and that's just there to help you budget and let you know which one of these benefits you can actually choose and will fit for you for this year. The last and final thing to talk about is an employee assistance program. This EAP plan is there to help you. This is where you can go and speak to counselors or local therapists about stress, anxiety, depression, a variety of different issues, even financial counseling or even parenting questions. Maybe you're trying to find some independent care resources. All of this is available to you and it's free. So calling up this service here, that's going to be a free phone call for you. They're going to help set you in the right direction and get you going. So if they need to refer you out to somebody else, they're going to get you started on a path and you can decide whether you want to continue that path. But this is giving you a way to contact somebody that's not directly with HR. This is something that's confidential and outside of that. So you don't have to worry about this getting back to HR or interfering with anything that goes on work, but it is there for you, and take advantage of it. Use it, as you see fit. The last and final page, I'm just going to go over this for one quick second, is just a highlight of all the different numbers. That is in your benefit guide. So you can go there to refer to this. Once again, our telephone number, if you need to get a hold of myself or Chuck, once again, I'm Jonathan Rudnick. There are quite a few other brokers in the office. So just depending on who it is that you're talking to, if you need to reach out to one of us specifically, the main telephone number for our office has been for the last 20 years, 818-883-3282. The email address for Chuck is charlesmbest@lafinservices.com. The email address for myself is jrudnick@lafinservices.com. So please reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We want to make sure that you have the best enrollment experience that you can this year. If you have trouble getting into the portal, I am going to do a separate portal demo just to make sure that you know what you need to do there. That will probably only be a couple minutes. So once you get in, you should be able to make all of your selections for the year. So without further ado, hopefully, if you have not fallen asleep yet, I am going to let you go and go on your way. So hopefully this will be a good jumping off point and you will have a great enrollment this year. Good luck to you. Reach out to me if you have any questions. All right. Have a good day or evening. Thanks.